A game series I've had my eye on for a while now has been the Mass Effect series. I've heard and seen that some of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, and some of the ratings that I've seen on games like Mass Effect 2 in the first game are absolutely incredible and puts them in the top 50 games of all time according to Metacritic, of course. And so I really did want to try out this supposedly amazing series, and I was gifted the legendary edition of these 3 games, the whole trilogy, over a year ago now, and finally I've had the time over the last 2 weeks to play and indulge in the first game within that fantastic trilogy. And oh boy, can I say that the game definitely lived up to all the hype that I've seen surrounding the series thus far. I'm going to be talking about the gameplay and the story of the game, and the story section will have some spoilers, of course. To be entirely honest, I haven't really played any traditional RPG games, and the ones I've played, I don't know if I can really consider them RPGs, such as the new Assassin's Creed games, for example, and they're not the best examples of the genre either, and I don't even know what the best example would be, but I really did hope that that wasn't one of the best examples I could find, and Mass Effect definitely proved me wrong in that regard. I didn't know what to expect from an RPG in terms of the gameplay, but I definitely understood the choices, the dialogue, and everything that encapsulated all the world building within the game really had an impact on your character and the events within the game itself. I haven't really played any games where the choices actually truly matter. I've played so many games where they give you a choice, but it's the illusion of choice that makes you think you're making an impact by specific one option over another, but in the grand scheme of things, that option doesn't actually do anything to the greater finale of the game. But in Mass Effect, I could see that even while playing through the game, that all the choices I was making, even in side missions, really had an impact on the overall world and the reputation of my commander or my character at hand. So we're going to break down the gameplay here. First, we're going to talk about the weapons, your squad upgrades and the skill points, and the overall gear system of the game, and the combat in its entirety as well. First, we're going to talk about the weapons, the squad upgrades, and the gear system and the combat, as they all coincide with one another. So first, let's talk about the weapons. So as you start the game, you've got a few different weapons. First being a basic assault rifle, a sniper rifle, a pistol, and a shotgun, which are many of the essential weapons you think of when you're thinking about weapons and guns in video games, and these are the main weapons you're going to want to have, and these are the main weapons that you're going to have throughout the game. As well as this, you can actually directly affect what guns your teammates are going to be using, your squad mates. You can choose what they're going to use, so you can mix up the gameplay in that manner as well. And the gear system, first of all, is quite complex, and I didn't actually understand it until halfway through playing the game. You've got all these weapons that you collect through getting crates and buying things off different vendors within the Citadel, for example, and you collect an array of different weapons, shotguns, all of which you can equip to your different teammates and yourself. So you've got different shotguns, different assault rifles, different pistols, different sniper rifles, all of which have, of course, upgraded damage and whatnot. And then you've also got your armors as well. You've got light armor, you've got medium armor, and heavy armor. And so you can customize your character, picking different armor sets as you unlock new ones and better ones, and then also equip them to your squad mates as well to make them more defensive or offensive within the combat scenarios of the game. So the actual weapon system itself isn't too complex. Of course, you've got those weapons, and eventually as you keep playing, you're going to keep constantly getting different weapons, of which are going to be better than the ones that you currently have. So you're going to keep re-equipping yourself and your teammates with better guns, and that's pretty much the whole gist of that. As you'll see, you got like a weapon that says V on it, and then you'll do one that has VI on it. So of course that's better than the V, of course. So you're just going to keep upgrading them over and over again, and there's not too much more complexity to that department. As well as this, the armor is also the same. If it's a heavy armor set, it's probably better than the light armor and vice versa. So essentially the only complex matter within the actual weapons and the armor is that you can apply weapon mods and armor mods. I actually didn't discover this until I was about 70% through the game, and that's because of course you keep unlocking these different weapon mods, but I didn't know that you could apply them or what you're supposed to do with them. So I did see them popping up on the screen. It's not that hard to access, so it was kind of my fault that I didn't see it. But these different weapon modifiers and armor modifiers do really good things to your weapons. For example, one does incendiary damage while another one does toxic damage, and so you're going to keep switching with all these different weapon mods across your armors and across your weapons, of course, which can be a little confusing, and I've seen many complaints online about it being too convoluted, and I definitely agree with that. You've got like hundreds and hundreds of weapon mods by the end of the game that you don't know what to equip, what's better, and vice versa, and you don't actually understand what's going on with the overall gear system by the end of the game. But overall, it is quite simplistic to understand at first, and if you can get the gist of it, you're not going to really have any trouble with customizing your character to what you want. There's also squad upgrades where every time you level up throughout the game through getting experience from doing side side quests, missions, killing enemies, all that stuff, you get points which you can put into different facets for your character and for your squad mates. For example, you've got an assault one or you've got a technology one, which will upgrade the proficiency of that particular teammate or yourselves proficiency within that field, which will further enhance your abilities within the combat scenarios of the game. For example, if you've got all your technology upgraded, some of the crates that you see lying around on some planets you might not be able to access if your technology levels are quite low, but if they're high or to the standard that the game wants, you'll be able to open up these crates and access different armors and weapons that you couldn't access normally with the normal crates within the game. So now let's talk about the combat itself. It's quite simplistic and there's not much to say about it in general. I've heard it has some of the worst combat in the series, and I can definitely see why, especially after starting Mass Effect 2, which just upgrades the entire scope of all the combat within the first game and enhances it to be even better. But the combat here I did quite enjoy myself though. It's very oriented around its cover shooting. If you don't take cover, you're probably going to die, and some of the other abilities that you have don't really do anything to mix up the combat that much, so you'll just be spraying and melee attacking enemies, and there's not too much variety within the combat itself. You can move around your teammates and stuff into tactical positions, but me personally, I never did that, and I just let them do whatever they wanted. So it was more me doing all the damage within the combat scenarios of the game, and you have to get in cover a lot and be a little bit tactical as to what you do in order to actually survive these scenarios, because there's many times where you and your squad mates are on low health, so you've got to be a little bit tactical as to what you're doing within the game. So you've got to get behind cover and then use Medigel in order to recover your and your teammates' health bars. I think before we move on to the exploration side of this section of the video, we're going to talk about the vehicle combat within this game, which is quite prevalent within the game as well. So every time you get posted onto a new planet for a new mission, you're probably going to be in the Marco, which is a tank sort of weapon, a car sort of thing that you drive around, which has a boost and has different artillery shots, such as just a normal assault fire, and then it's got missile shots as well. So the vehicle combat in this first off did seem quite fun when you first engage into it, but it becomes quite repetitive as you play through the game, and I got quite annoyed of missions that force you to use the Marco, and I didn't really like the missions after a while, especially when you were inside this tank for so long. It gets quite repetitive and there's not too much variety within the combat that you do within this vehicle, as you'll be facing the same enemies again and again, using the same strategies such as boosting, using your missile shots, and then using assault fire to take down any heavy enemies in your way. So it wasn't that complex, but I did enjoy some sections of the vehicle combat, and roaming the world within this vehicle was quite fun as well. And talking about roaming, we can quickly talk about exploration, and you've probably heard that the exploration within the Mass Effect games are incredible, and I can definitely see why. You can explore their entire galaxy within this game. You can go to different planets, exploring everything, doing the side quests, talking to people, exploring everything within the entire galaxy, within the entire universe of Mass Effect. There's a lot to do within the different systems within the game. You've got characters to meet, side quests to do, and the entire exploration section of the game is so incredibly fun and diverse, and there's so much things to do within the world, and each environment within the game is so diversified to the last one, which will make you really want to explore every edge of the entire galaxy within Mass Effect 1. And I really did enjoy doing every bit of exploration I could within the game, and I highly recommend it for anyone that wants to play the game and hasn't already for some reason. Explore every inch of the entire galaxy, because you can have an absolute blast meeting all the different races, characters, and doing all the different side missions the game has at your disposal, which are so detailed and so diverse in their nature. This section isn't going to be too long because I think everyone already knows why the story of the first game is so incredible. The main thing for me within this first game of the series was the world building and the different lore that the game offered to you right from the get-go. There's so much world building, especially from the very start of the game, that introduces you to all the different races and their histories throughout the game as you do different side quests, explore different planets, and look around the different lore that you can see within the game, in the Citadel for example, and all the different things that you see within the story itself really shows you how diverse and how complex this entire galaxy really is. And the interactions between different races such as humans, Turians, Solarians are so diverse, so complex, and so interesting to see. And I really did enjoy this aspect of the game, and I think it's one of the greatest aspects of the story component of the game, and something I really did enjoy. The fact that all these aliens and humans can really talk to one another, interact with one another, and all the different history that we don't even get to see on screen but still learn about is so incredible to see. see. And I really did enjoy this aspect, and it was one of the greatest aspects of the game for me personally. And the actual story of the game definitely did wonders to that aspect as well. The world building combined with the actual story of the game is quite amazing. The story is about a galactic threat where Saren takes control of the Reapers, which are essentially a civilization or cluster of machines that are sentient and have been responsible for destroying all organic life within the entire universe and restarting the cycle of organic life over and over again. It's a really complex story, and I really did enjoy the implications and the stakes at hand. Many stories don't have the same stakes that Mass Effect does, and the galactic threat that you see within the game that's not even resolved at the very end, because the game's ending makes it so ambiguous, and you understand that that was only the beginning of the story of the Mass Effect series. It really does dig in how big the Reapers are as a threat to the galaxy. It's not just you and Commander Shepard going on a crusade to take down one single Reaper. It's about an entire civilization of these things, wiping out all organic life within the galaxy, and so you've really got to strive in order to take them down. So I really did enjoy the greater implications of the story, because it didn't just focus on one specific matter, and we can see just from the ending itself that there's a grander, bigger picture here, and that's what the other games themselves are going to explore. And I can definitely already see from what I've played of Mass Effect 2, the Reapers are an overarching enemy, the overarching villain of all of the games within the trilogy. The character building as well as the world building within the game, which I've mentioned before, is so incredible. So of course I've already mentioned how the world building of the different races, their histories, their backgrounds, everything that they do, the way that they act, the mannerisms of them is so well developed, and the characters themselves within the game are also quite well developed. You can talk to all the different characters within your crew, to different alien species within the Citadel and other planets as well, and you can really get a drive of what these characters actually do and what their purpose actually is within the galactic threat or the galactic matter at hand. Every character within your crew has something to offer in terms of character development, and some of my favorite characters were Garrus, for example, which was such an interesting character to see, and his different motivations as well as Rex, who's really bent on saving his entire race, which is slowly becoming extinct within the galaxy as well. And there's of course a lot of history that you've got to delve into to understand why he's so concerned about that as well. So yeah, basically I didn't want to delve into too many specifics about the story of the game, because we already know the plot of the game, and the main thing I wanted to talk about is how the world of Mass Effect is so well designed, so well built, and the characters within that world, within those galaxies, are so well designed and developed as well in their own right. Every character here has something to offer, something so interesting about their background, and you'll want to explore every inch of the histories of these different races, their different backgrounds, why some of the races despise each other, the different wars that happen before the game's place, and what happens to humanity throughout the game is really interesting to see played out in general. And the entire overarching story of the Reapers really wraps this into a perfect package that is so incredible and so endearing, and I'm really excited to see how Mass Effect 2 continues this story to make it even greater, as I've heard that Mass Effect 2 has one of the greatest stories in gaming. And I think the choices within the first game really make such a big impact on the events within the game, and understanding that all your different choices have consequences really drives home how important everything that you do within the game is. And I don't think many other video games there offer that, and I can confidently say that within the choices and how much they matter, Mass Effect is unparalleled against any other video game I've ever played. And I think my appreciation of the characters, the world building, and the exploration of the game is only going to compound as I play through the trilogy, getting more and more connected to the events within the game, the world building, the races, etc. And I can already understand why Mass Effect is regarded as one of the greatest games of all time and one of the greatest game series ever made. I hope you enjoyed my 2023 review of the first Mass Effect game, and I definitely think I'm going to review the second game once I finish it in a week or so. I really have enjoyed delving into this fantastic series, and I can't wait to play more of it very soon. Anyway, that's all from me for today's video. Hope you all did enjoy this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.